Hey guys, I'm Domain Data Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a while since I've posted a video. In the last video, we finished up part 2 on data visualizations, and we talked about how we can get more out of the graphs we do and make sure we can, distinguish between different sections of a graph. So in that video, my main purpose was to give you guys an intro into data visualizations, graphing, how you can separate parts of a data set in order to get a more distinct and clear view of your graph. Now I want to take a break from the data parts of R. Instead, I want to go through some basics, pretty much how we can use it as a calculator, basic syntax, and pretty much how we can assign variables and all the basic things you need to know to be able to work it in a basic way, R. So that's going to be the purpose of this video. Okay, now let's go ahead and open RStudio. If you're not sure how to get RStudio, I have a video, my first video tells you how to get it. So first let's start by talking about some of the basic things R can do for you. First off, it can act as a normal calculator and can do the 4 basic functions. So it can add, 2 plus 4 equals 6. It can subtract as well. It can multiply using the star. And we can also divide. It can also be used for some more interesting functions like sine, say. Sine pi over 2 is 1. Cosine pi over 3. Same thing. So it can be used as a calculator for all the different functions, and it can be pretty useful in this way. In R, we can also create new objects. So for example, say I want to assign x to the value of 4. The way I do that is I write x, and then I do this less than sign, and then a dash. And this looks like an arrow. So it's saying x is, the arrow means is 4. Click enter. So what that means enter is now that the R did that. So now R says, okay, now I know x is 4. So if I type x, it will give me 4. So let's do the same thing for y, and we'll make y 10. Now instead of having to type 10 times 4, I could do x times y, and I'll get 40. Same thing with all the 4 functions, x minus y, x plus y, x divided by y. So we can also do sine of x. So this is an easy way to create objects. An interesting thing is we should never use the equal sign. You can do it, but it'll become confusing later on. The easier way to do it is to type the arrow. So get used to learning the arrow and not the equal sign for R. Now let's talk about, in detail, more about objects. So as I said, I created 2 objects, x and y. So there's a lot of things you can use to create objects, but there's some things you cannot do. So I'm going to start with everything you can do. First off, objects have to start with a letter. They cannot begin with 1, 2, 3. That won't work. Okay. They can only start with letters, and they can contain the following things. They can have letters, A, B, C. They can have numbers, 1, 2, 3. They can have the underscore and the period. Those are the only 4 things. Okay, has to start with the letter. So I can create something like I underscore love underscore, and then assign that, say 10. So now, if I wanted to, say, inspect this object, if I forgot what it was, I can just type it, and then it'll give me its value. So if at any time you forget a variable, an object you had, and you want to remember what it is, just type it again. So it's very important that when you create an object, you make it descriptive. So an object like x is not very descriptive. It's not going to tell a whole lot. However, if your object is something like height underscore of underscore humans, for example, that's going to be descriptive. That's something that someone can look at and say, okay, I know what this object is going to be about. And I separate it with underscores. You could, sometimes separate it with periods, something like this. So that's what you can do with objects. It's also very important that R is cap sensitive. So these and this are different. This does not have any value. This does not mean anything. If that was uppercase, it doesn't mean anything. Very important that you are cap sensitive. So make sure that when you use objects, you only use underscore, period, numbers and letters. It has to start with a letter. Okay, now let's talk about some of the things R will do to help you and how we can call some functions. So let's start with the basic function sequence, and sequence will give you a list of numbers. So let's start by typing the first two letters, SE. And I don't know, say we forgot that the last one is Q. If we press tab, it'll give us a list of all the functions we can use. Then let's say we look for it and we remember, oh, I wanted to use a sequence, right? And here it'll tell you what the function is. So let's finish by typing the Q, and then let's press tab after we're on the function we want. R will give us two parentheses, so it's trying to help you out here. It's trying to say, look, I know you want to write a sequence, I'm giving you two parentheses to write what you want. So let's say we want 1 to 10. That'll give us the numbers 1 to 10. So that's one way that R will try to help you when calling functions. You can do this for all the functions in R. As well as this will also happen when you try and work with objects. So say instead of X being a number, we want it to be words. We want it to be hello, say. So we give it a quotation mark, and then R will already give you the second one here, saying, okay, you want to finish it, right? Just like that. So now if we type X, we get hello. Now let's say I want to make another one, but I accidentally delete this one, and I call it A, right? Now, R will give you a plus here. Now this plus is saying, it's thinking that you forgot to do something. It's saying you have to add something, or you're trying to do something else, and you look back and you say, oh, I needed another quotation mark. Oops, one sec. So now, if you type Z, you get the proper what you wanted. So it'll try and help you like this. Another thing I wanted to show you guys is if you look in your top right of RStudio, you'll be able to see all the objects you've assigned here. So I can see everything I've assigned and the value I gave to it. That'll also be very useful for you. So make sure when you're doing your function calling and when you name an object a letter, make sure you follow with all the steps, include the quotations, and R will help you out as you go along. Okay guys, that was the end of this video. We talked about some basic syntax, how to assign objects, how to use it as a calculator, talked about some basic functions. So now you guys have a pretty good idea of how you can use this for general use instead of solely for data analysis. In the next video, I'm going to start talking about data transformations, how we can analyze data very specifically, figuring out what we want from a big data set, and it'll help you guys get accustomed to how you can find all the missing details or some small things you're missing in large data sets. Stick around for my next video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time.